What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If y'all know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, my first full-length video back. How are y'all doing today? How are y'all doing? And you know what? Before I go any further, I do want to address something because I'm sure some of y'all are going to be commenting down below. Wait a minute. The ending of your last video was a tiny bit different. It was. Centerfire Podcast is no more. Let me leave it at that. And that'll be my nicest way of leaving it. Let's get on to this video's topic. So, this video's topic, most common handgun calibers and the pros and cons about them. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, Mark, why do you have a piece of cardboard in your hand and you're sitting there waving it around? Well, honestly, it's simply just because of the fact that I ran out of paper and I've just had a long day, guys. I moved recently. It's been, excuse me, literally yesterday was Christmas. So, I'm like, let me just make sure I have everything down here and I ran through my checklist properly because I want to do things properly for y'all. So let's get into it. Most common handgun calibers and the pros and cons about them. So I have 8 calibers here. And then as a special, just a little treat for y'all, a little treat. All right. I am including my guess on what's to be a soon to be common caliber. What's going to be a soon... shit. Y'all got to think of the way to word it. It's been a while since I've been on camera. What's going to be... my guess on a soon-to-be common caliber is how I wrote it. So, correct me if I'm wrong. All right, shame on me. But, let's get into it. So, 22LR is the first one we're going to start. That's the cheapest. Everybody knows 22LR. Hell, even my grandfather has his 22 from when he was 16 still. You know what I mean? Everybody knows about 22LR. All right. Hell, I was actually thinking about getting him some ammo just as a gift, maybe for his birthday. 325 rounds for $20. Hell yeah. Super cheap. You know what I mean? That is a pro for sure. The cheap aspect of it is great. So I'm going to start with the pros here. As I said, start off with the cheap. Let me see here. It is great for hunting small game like rabbits, squirrels, things along those lines. It is great for hunting. And since it is so cheap, if you miss, it's not the biggest deal in the world. You know what I mean? If you miss it by a little bit, you're not like, shit, that's $1 a round. No, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? So we're looking pretty good with some pros here. You know what I mean? And if you guys don't know, I've actually done videos personally on all of these. I've done their own separate videos diving more into detail about it, and I actually go through self-defense situations with them. And if you're looking for that, then you might want to go check those videos out. All right. However, this is going to be very brief. This is just the brief intro. Not even really introduction because I've done plenty of caliber videos already. However, if you just want the quick rundown, this is the video for you. All right. So let me see here. That along with cheap, good for hunting small game. There's of course, one of the things that make it fun to shoot, low recoil, obviously. And I think that's about it. I'm trying to think if there's really any more to it, but the low recoil, how cheap it is, the fact that it's good for small game. So if you're trying to hunt and, just really get whatever you can because something happens and you have no food and you just need to hunt, you need to eat. Yeah, that's helpful. You know what I mean? I think that's about it though. You know what I mean? That's really it. They're fun plinking. It's a fun plinking round. That's really what it is. It's a cheap, fun to shoot plinking round, and you can get a couple of squirrels or whatever with it. Not the biggest deal. Now, it is not a man stopper by any standards. That is a big deal, guys. Now, of course, there's people who are going to argue, oh, yes, it is. Believe me, they've already argued it with me. If you get hit and you get shot in the head with a 22, yeah, there's a higher chance that you're going to die than getting shot in, say, I don't know, the arm with a 22 or the rib with a 22, whatever. You know what I mean? You have you have a higher chance of dying if you get hit in the head, obviously. But that really goes for a lot of other things too. I mean, think about it. Let's be real here. I also stab somebody in the head, they're probably going to die. You know what I mean? There's like, so when people make that argument, oh, shot placement is all that matters. Kind of not, but I still would rather be able to cause enough pain to, you know, I'd still rather cause enough pain to stop the threat if need be. Now, that's the biggest con. Another big one is that because 22 LR is a rimfire cartridge, it is not the most reliable. It is not. With certain guns, it's just going to be a jam machine. That's all it is. It's a jamming round in certain guns. Now, that's not to say that it isn't reliable in some guns. I've shot, a couple of 22s that were extremely reliable. And it was funny because they're super cheap, stupid cheap. Uh, I think that's really about it. As far as the big pros and cons for 22 LR. Do I give it the best rating for a self defense round? No, but it does have its pros that do make it useful. All right. Now let's move on to 380 AC. Actually, no, sorry. Let me get back to there is one more pro, excuse me, not pro, con of 22 LR. One more. Sorry, guys. Been a while, as I said. A lot of the firearms that are chambered in 22 LR tend to have a low capacity. Now, of course, there are exceptions, but if we're talking at least handguns, because we're talking about handgun calibers, and yeah, some don't have the best capacity. Now, as I said, there are exceptions. I actually am planning on getting one of those exceptions. Not really anytime soon, but it is on my list. The Taurus TX22. So it's with it not being as powerful as it should be, and the lower capacity, it's a big con. Now let's move on. 380 ACP. We're gonna start with the pros. Has more stopping power than 22 LR. It is definitely something that can be helpful. I carry a 380. It's my backup gun. They let me see here. Ammo's not really that cheap. It's actually a bit more expensive than 9mm, which 9mm is not too expensive now, but if it's a bit more expensive, then we're starting to range into the do I want to pay that price? But that's regardless. 380 ACP, it's okay. It's there. It'll do the job if if you need to. 380 has more of the power to stop somebody than 22 does, so that's always a good thing. Now I'm sure some people are going to make the argument, oh well, if 380 only has pros when compared to something like 22, are they really pros? Yeah, you can make that argument. I'm sure you can. However, I still would rather have a 380 than a 22. Now that being said, really any other pros? The 380, it's low recoil, kinda, you know what I mean? And I'll get into that in a second. And that's really it. Now, I want to go into why I said kind of low recoil. There aren't very many 380 ACP guns that are a decent size. There aren't. A lot of the 380 ACP guns are around the size of my Ruger LCP. So that's kind of a big deal there. With how small the gun is, it's going to be a lot more snappy than hell, they make LCPs chambered in 22, so it'd obviously be a lot more snappy than an a 22 LCP. So with that being said, that's what I mean when I say it's kind of iffy on when you say it's a low recoil round. It depends the size of the gun. I think it's the Glock 25, which is the same size as the Glock 19. I might be mistaken. I have not looked at my Glock book in a minute. But regardless, that's not even the point. There are some 380 ACP Glocks that are larger than the size of an LCP that we just can't have. There are some that we can, but that's neither here nor there. This kind of explains what I mean as far as lowish recoil. Now, as far as another con, because of how small the guns tend to be, lower capacity. That is something you do have to think about. With how small they are, though, another pro I thought of, how small they are very good for concealment. Let's get that out of the way. They are very good for concealment. But I think that's really about it. There's nothing super special about 380. There's honestly, in my opinion, more, I can't say more cons than pros in like a severe sense, However, there's a reason why I don't like shooting my LCP. I do it because I need to train with it. However, I don't like doing it. It's just something I need to do because I have to train with it. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the most common handgun caliber in the world, 9mm Luger round. Now, at the moment, I do not carry a 9mm. Now, that is only because my holster from We the People broke. And I don't even know exactly how it broke, but a little piece of it chipped off, and it affected how the screws would go into the holster. It was a whole fiasco. Have a new holster on the way. That's not the point. Right now, I'm carrying my Glock 23, so I'm carrying a 40. However, I do carry a 9mm usually. So I have a little bit, a good little bit of experience with 9mm here when I say this. 9mm is a pretty solid round for, overall, really not anything, but for your overall standard self-defense purposes. We're not talking something that's to a higher extreme, like, trying to defend yourself against a larger animal, things like that. However, 9mm, you get a solid capacity. It's when people say, "Oh, well, low recoil." 9mm does not have a lot of recoil. I think people try to put 9mm as the standard for recoil, and I don't think people should do that because while it is the most popular handgun caliber in the world, it doesn't have a lot of recoil. So it's kind of puts you at a disadvantage to kind of put the standard of recoil at 9mm. So I'll even argue lowish recoil. And if you get a full size 9mm, they're super easy to shoot. The recoil's, not like nothing, but it's not hard to maintain or hard to control at all. Now, I'm sure people are going to make the argument, oh, well, what if you're arthritic? What if you're old? Whatever. That's not what I'm trying to get at. All right. People who make those arguments are only trying to argue semantics with me, and that's just because they think they can out petty me, but I can turn into Petty Murphy. So let's get on with it. It has okay stopping power. It doesn't have a lot of stopping power. You know what I mean? Most handgun calibers don't. And there's a reason for that, because if they were going to have that level of stopping power, why would you not just have a rifle at that point or a shotgun? So there's reasons to that. Sorry that I'm itching my face, y'all. My mustache is fucking with me today. So I'm trying to think of some cons here because, I pretty much covered the pros here. One more. A variety of ammo that you can get. 9mm is openly available. It is very common, as I said. With it being the most common caliber in the world, you will probably find 9mm at a majority of your gun stores and ranges. And if you don't, that means they probably sold out. And that's for a good reason, because a lot of people get 9mm. So let me see here. A couple of cons, as I said, not the biggest man stopper. It's not the let me see here. It just does its job. I'm trying to think of, something special that's like on the negative side of 9mm, because it is a, pretty solid caliber in my opinion. As I said, I primarily carry one. That's honestly it that I can think of. I'm gonna be real with you guys. 9mm doesn't have a lot of cons going for it. It tends to have more pros than cons because of the simple fact that you get a higher capacity with 9mm than you do most other, handgun rounds. Actually, I think the only caliber on my list that has, that the average capacity is higher than 9mm is going to be the one that is my guess on a soon to be common caliber. Not even, what's currently common calibers right now. So let that say something. We're going to move on from 9mm next to what I currently carry, 40 Smith & Wesson. Some people like to argue it's a dying caliber. However, I'll disagree with that 100%. That's a really stupid argument to say. By that same logic, 10 millimeters dying out. By that same logic, 357 SIG, which has died out and came back apparently, is dying out again. I can make a lot of these arguments, but in all reality, it's just that there's cost of production, there is supply and demand, and those affect costs a lot. So let's get that out the way. 40 Smith & Wesson outperforms 9mm. Now, I'm sure I didn't go over this with 9mm. However, sure, it's kind of obvious to you guys. 9mm outperforms 380 ACP and 22 LR. 40 Smith & Wesson, though, it outperforms a good few of the rounds on this list. A good few. And a lot of people don't like to believe that, because if you're new to guns, which this video is generally going to be for, if you're new to guns, then you might hear a larger number and you think, oh, that's the better round to go for. And it's really not. Sometimes it's really not. Like my dad still thinks that he should get a Desert Eagle as his first gun. And I've been telling him it's not a great idea, but that's neither here nor there. All right. 40 Smith & Wesson, you get a pretty good capacity with in a majority of the guns. It performs pretty well. It's decently available. So if you run out, you have to go out to a store, they don't have it, there's probably going to be another store that's close by that has it. That's just how it is. It's not anywhere near dying to the sense that people think that it's going to be hard for you to get or it's going to be super expensive to get. I bought a box of 40 FMJs 40 Smith & Wesson, 50 rounds of FMJs. Let me clarify that, because I don't want people thinking, what fucking brand did you buy 40 rounds of FMJs from? But a box of 50 rounds of FMJs at 40 Smith & Wesson was like $20, from what I believe, 20-ish bucks at the at my local gun store. So it's not dying like people say, and I know it sounds like I'm defending it a lot. However, I do like the caliber. I think it's a cool caliber. I think the history of it is pretty cool, and it does its job. I think people talk shit on it because it does outperform 9mm and 45, which is the next caliber I'm gonna go into, and that's proven. But that's not my point here. Let me get that out the way. You get a solid capacity with 40 Smith & Wesson. As I said, it outperforms 9mm and 45 ACP, so you get a little better stopping power than those two. Decently available, as I said. Trying to think really if there's anything super special about it other than its performance level, and not really. I think that's about it. I think that is about it. The recoil is definitely a bit, a tad bit more snappy, which is to be expected. If you know the history of the 40 Smith & Wesson, then you can expect it to be a bit more snappy than 9mm, 380, 22 LR, rounds like that. Now, it is not unmanageable by any standard. It is nowhere near unmanageable. Just it's an objective truth, if you will. You know what I mean? 40 is it's a bit more snappy, but a bit more snappy. Let me see here. Yeah, I think that really about covers it. Oh, you know what? There is one more, and it is true. It's because of the fact that firearms chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson, they will not last as long as firearms chambered in 9mm. That's because a lot of firearms chambered in 40 Smith & Wesson were just 9mm frames, and they just made a couple of tweaks to where it's a 40 instead of a 9mm. So that is true. However, the chances of you outshooting your gun is very slim, unless you are a real serious shooter and you are putting thousands and thousands of rounds through your gun each month. You're probably not going to outshoot your gun. So that about covers it for 40 Smith & Wesson. And I'm going to give my overall, top 3 I would choose at the end of this video, just because of the fact that, I am having to do things a little differently with how I'm having to go down this list, and you'll see what I mean. Because I'm sure you're wondering, well, The only round that's not 100% a semi-auto round that you've gone over is 22 LR. I know, I have the revolver rounds at the end. Let's move on. 45 ACP, also known as my stopping power, also known as the round that won 2 world wars. Now, let's go over some pros about it. It's a pretty cool round. When you have that much hype around it, it's just kind of, known as a cool round. You kind of, sometimes people like to make fun of it. And I joke around about it, honestly, because of the fact that a majority of people who claim 45 is the best caliber, they carry 1911s. Nothing wrong with 1911, just not the best choice. Now, with 45, you get less of a capacity than you would with 40 Smith & Wesson. Now, I'm going to give you an example. We're going to take 3 full-size Glocks, right? We're going to take the Glock 17, the Glock 22, the Glock 21, all right? And there's a reason why I said it in that order. Glock 17 is a full-size 9mm, all right? The standard magazine capacity is 17 plus 1. The Glock 22, the standard magazine capacity, it's 40 Smith & Wesson, by the way. Standard magazine capacity, 15 plus 1. Glock 21, 45 ACP. Standard capacity is 13 plus 1. So we're seeing a little trend here. The fatter the round is, the less capacity you have, which makes perfect sense. So please remember that. So there's less capacity. If I'm not mistaken, 45 ACP is naturally subsonic, which means that if you have a suppressor, yeah, you know what I mean? That's going to be helpful. You don't really have to break the bank to go buy special subsonic ammo. Now, I'm sure there is some that makes it a lot better, but regardless, 45 really only has the perks of availability and the cool factor behind it. It has okay stopping power. It performs around the same as 9mm, so it's give or take on there. And I'll be honest, I would rather have higher capacity in that case, but that's neither here nor there. As far as downsides go, the recoil obviously is going to be more than 9mm. You have less capacity than 9mm and 40, as I said before. And I'm sure you're wondering why you saying capacity and then the caliber, because of the fact I don't want to sit here and specify each specification of the standards. That I don't want to do that. I don't. All right. But now this next one, some people may look at as an oddball. I don't, and here's why: is that you got to consider where I am in my country. I'm in Florida. A lot of people carry a lot of different calibers out here, and some people, they carry this next caliber. Some people don't. A lot of people don't here in Florida, but a lot of people in more rural areas do. The 10mm round. So 10mm is a pretty powerful handgun round for what it is. Now you get about the same capacity as far as a full size, right? The Glock 20 is 10mm. The full size 10mm right there, that's capacity is 15 plus 1, same as 40. Now, if you guys know anything about 10mm and 40 Smith & Wesson, you know why that is. They're the same diameter. However, 10mm definitely packs more of a punch. It is a much more effective round at stopping a threat. So much so that people will use it to, when they go on hikes, to help protect themselves against bears. So let's get that out the way. It is a pretty solid round when it comes to stopping power. Now, from what I know and from my research online, a lot of the 10mm ammo isn't really up to par with what it's supposed to be as far as the pressure behind it, things like that. So we're not getting really full 10mm recoil, things like that, as we should be. So I don't know too much about the older ammo, I guess you would say, because from what I'm hearing, they just tone down how much pressure and everything they put into the standard 10mm ammo, and that's kind of ridiculous because you're making people think recoil wise it's something less than it's really gonna fucking be. Now, from what I've also heard, it's the recoil, you could argue, is similar to 357 Magnum. which is a caliber on this list I will discuss. Now, with that being said, it's a decent capacity, pretty good stopping power. It is not the most commonly available round. Now, it is decently commonly, fuck, it is decently common when it comes to its availability. When it comes to its availability, it's not like I don't ever see 10 millimeter, but I'll be honest, I don't own any 10 millimeter guns at the moment, so I'm not going out of my way to look for it. If I notice it, I just notice it. So I can say that. But from what I remember, at least, we're not dealing with a drought in 10 millimeter, at least here in Florida, we're not. I know some of y'all are from different states. I know, for example, one of y'all is from New Orleans, you know what I mean? Y'all go ahead and sit there and let me know, what's the prices looking like for y'all. If you're having any shortages with any of these rounds, let me know. Like, come on, let's talk here. It's been a while since I've been up. All right, so that's 10 millimeter. Downsides, the recoil, if you're dealing with full, I guess we'll say fully spiced, you know, non-neutered is a better way. 10 millimeter rounds, the recoil is not going to be the most fun for people who haven't shot a gun ever. And that's mainly what this video is for the new people. However, if you do learn to train with it and you are able to manage it, it can be a very effective round. Now, with that being said, the recoil not being the best, that's something that I want to point out because I know some people, might even be women who are watching this. I wouldn't recommend 10 millimeter for people with smaller stature unless they've already practiced with 10 millimeter and this isn't their first gun. You know what I mean? That's just my common sense recommendation. Uh, it is a bit more expensive because it's not the most common round available. It's, from what I remember, it's running around like $25 for a box of 50 FMJs. Could be a couple dollars more, maybe a couple dollars less. I might be mistaken, but it's not super bad in price. It's really not. You see here, you do have a higher chance of overpenetration because it is a higher pressured round. There is more power to it. And it is going to be a bit harder for you to get shots on target when compared to like 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, or even 9 millimeter. So let's just clarify that right now. There are a good couple of cons here with 10 millimeter, but there are a good couple of pros as well. Now we're going to move on to what I call them the revolver section, right? We're going to start with 38 special. You hear people talk about 38, 38, 38. Oh, yeah, the 38 special. My 38 revolver. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's 38. Yeah, it's cool, whatever. It's not that great of a round. Now, here's what I'll say. It's fun to shoot a 38 out of a 357. It's really fun, too. It's almost like a 22. But as far as a self-defense round, it'll do the job. It just doesn't do the job the best. And here's why. Is a majority of 38 specials that people get, they're not getting 4-inch or even 6-inch barrels. They're getting the snubbies. That's not giving anywhere near enough room for that round to reach its potential because of the barrel length that it's lacking. And I'm not trying to sit here and sound super smart, guys. It's just been a while since I've been on here. So it's not doing its job for me when it comes to stopping power. Now I would say the most common revolver caliber in the world. I could make that argument. 38 special, most common revolver caliber in the world. There's a reason for that. It's not like it's a bad caliber. It won't defend you. It will, but I don't 100% trust it with that capability, considering the barrel length that a majority of them are. So you do have a couple of pros and cons with it being, as the most common revolver caliber in the world. It's very rare you're going to go to gun stores and they not have it, unless we are dealing with a ammo drought, as I said, which that has happened. I've gone to gun stores and literally said, hey guys, y'all got any revolver ammo? Not even own a revolver. I just wanted to check this, right? And they're like, no, we haven't had any for 4 months. And they said this was such a straight face. This was like 2021. And yeah, you know what I mean? It's a very common caliber. However, there can be droughts, of course, just like with any other caliber. It's not the most expensive. However, it is going to be more expensive than your traditional semi-auto round like 9mm 40, 45. Trying to think here really if there's anything extra special about them. And there really isn't. 38 Special isn't the best revolver round in my opinion. It does okay. Um, as far as recoil goes, it depends on what size revolver you get. If you're getting a snubby, snubby revolvers are never really fun to shoot anyways. So yeah, let that say it's for itself, shit. Oh well, yeah. Obviously, I can't believe I haven't brought this up considering I'm a capacity guy. All right. Revolvers don't have a great capacity. I'm sure you guys could figure that out. That I didn't feel I needed to explain. But I think that about covers it for the pros and cons of 38 Special. Now, we move on to the final caliber on the list before I talk about what my guess on a soon-to-be common caliber is. All right? And that is 357 Magnum. Now, 357 Magnum, that is my favorite revolver round. Now, here's why. Not even high recoil, but if you're behind, if you're on the other end of that bullet that's coming towards you, the pressure that's going to be coming off that is going to fuck you up. I promise you right now. That round is going to fuck you up. It is not a low recoil round, guys. Let's get that out of the way. It is not a low recoil. It is not as high recoil as like 44 Magnum or, rounds like that. However, it is not low recoil. Now, cool thing about, firearms chambered in 357 Magnum, as I said, you can shoot 38 Special out of them. So it kind of gives you the dual capabilities right there. You know what I mean? But 357 Magnum has great stopping power. It's okay when it comes to availability. It's somewhat common. It is a bit more expensive. The last time I remember buying a box of 357, it was like $30, maybe 35, and that was for a box of 50 rounds. Now I will say, if I'm not mistaken, that was soft point though, so we'll take a couple dollars off, just to even it out, I guess, because soft point is technically a special round. But it'll definitely do its job. That is 100% there, just like with 10mm. However, it is still a revolver round, so the capacity is going to be a bit lower. Now I'm sure some people are going to comment, oh well, a Desert Eagle. Well, I get that there are exceptions to the rule, but there's a rule for the reason. Oh shit. There are exceptions to the rule, but there's a rule for the reason. Now, that about covers it for 357 Magnum. Now, my guess on what's going to, or at least what's soon to be, a common caliber is the 5.7 by 28mm round, also known as 5.7 round. Affectionately known for its low recoil, you get a great capacity in all the guns that are chambered in it. And it's, from what I know, it's a very fun to shoot round. It's not the most common right now, but I see it is definitely nowhere near as dead as it was before, which gives me hope that that's going to be, a more common round nowadays. Somewhat expensive, I've seen the prices drop though. I've seen 50 rounds of, 5.7 FMJ go for $40 at one point, and then I also have seen it drop down now to $25. So let that say something, guys. Let that say something. The availability is pretty available. It's a very low recoil round. It's something that I can picture a lot of people starting to move towards. Does that mean that's what I'm going to do? Who knows? I like a rotation. I don't like just picking one thing. But I think that about covers it for this video. I wanted to give y'all somewhat long video because I've been gone for so long, man. I miss doing this shit. So with that being said, y'all go ahead and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, all right, because you agree with me that some of these rounds are fucking dope. Some of them are fucking garbage. But they all got their place. They all got their place. If you agree with me on that, y'all make sure to check out my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.